So Andrew, what do the polls show for the last month?
Well, Barry, the last month's polls are essentially the same as the previous month's polls. The ALP's primary vote is 29, the Coalition is on 49, the Greens are on 12, and that translates to a two-party preferred vote of 57 to 43 in favour of the Coalition. And if we look at the two-party preferred graph, we can see that the 14-point gap that blew out after the Queensland election has been maintained.
So no apparent benefit then for the government from the budget?
Well, these figures incorporate polls from before the budget and after the budget, but on the surface there appears to be no difference. However, the last poll from Newspoll and Essential did show an improvement in the government stocks and may be the beginning of a trend, but we really need to wait for the next couple of months of polls before we can make any sort of judgment in that regard.
OK, and what's happening now with the Better Prime Minister rating?
Well, the Better Prime Minister figures continue to show that arm wrestle that's gone on between these two leaders since the middle of last year, and Tony Abbott just edges Julia Gillard 39 to 37.
So Andrew, is there any good news for the government in any of these polls?
Well, yes, there is, and it relates to policy issues. Essential Research has been measuring the voter support for a range of government policies over the last few months, and the results have been quite favourable. On the NBN, on the mining tax, on the aged care reforms, and on means testing the private health insurance rebate. But of course the big negative is the carbon pricing scheme. Now, when the simple question is asked, do you support or oppose the introduction of a price on carbon, all the pollsters find on average about 35% in favour and 55% against. However, when a more expansive question is asked along the lines of, do you support or oppose the introduction of a price on carbon, if the money collected off the polluting industries goes to compensate households and to invest in renewable technologies, the attitudes change, and Essential found 50% in favour and 37% against, and in an earlier poll Galaxy found 66% in favour and 23% against. Now, the government will be hoping that the lived experience of the carbon pricing scheme, as opposed to the anticipated experience, will be a favourable one, and as a result attitudes will change, in line with those research findings.
So what should we draw from all of that?
That this electoral cycle still has a fair way to play out, and while currently the Coalition is clearly very well placed, and the betting markets have estimated its chance of winning the next federal election at 80% and the ALP at only 20%, it's not 100% to zero. To quote John Howard, there is no such thing as an unwinnable election, any more than there is such a thing as an unlosable election. The next federal election will not be predetermined by the polls of today or the opinions of commentators. It will be determined by the voters in 18 months' time. And because it is 18 months away and not 18 minutes, the biggest mistake the Coalition could now make is to believe that it cannot possibly lose the next federal election. And the biggest mistake the ALP could make is to believe that it cannot possibly win it.